What's good, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review Rihanna's third album and re-release album, Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded. Now, Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded came out in the spring of 2008, but Good Girl Gone Bad, the original, came out in the spring of 2007. So basically, the Reloaded version has three new songs, two of which hit number one. And this is basically the kind of pseudo debut. This is kind of the pseudo debut for Rihanna. I mean, she had two albums before this, but it was just kind of more in like a Caribbean and kind of dance hall sense, kind of more affiliated with like reggaeton and that type of stuff, with songs like If It's Loving That You Want and SOS and Pawn the Replay, which were kind of more just fixated on summer and kind of had that more reggaeton and dancehall type feel. But this album really aims for like a more makeshift and R&B type feel, along with some dance pop and pop in there. And it's kind of interesting just because Rihanna really wielded like a particular aspect on this project, which showcased her natural affinity for blue collar and makeshift music. Now, this is the sort of stuff, I mean, she kind of gives me similar vibes to Kelly Clarkson and a little bit of Avril Lavigne on here. She does do some dark and kind of hazy, kind of more gothic pop on here, which is pretty awesome just because Avril Lavigne and Kelly Clarkson do that also. But there's a lot of this that just feels like makeshift. It just feels like a classic 2000s makeshift album that you would listen to on the way to work, and the general malaise of just blue collar type environments and that type of stuff. Rihanna could have went with like a more female version of something like Trey Songz or T-Pain and Akon and some of those type folks, but she wielded some new skill sets and did like some makeshift R&B that really fits her quite well. And it's interesting to kind of get that. There's a lot of singles. There's actually 8 singles if you count the 5 singles from Good Girl Gone Bad, the original, and then the 3 singles from Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded. So we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to kind of get to that, but it just has like a particular vibe because the dancehall type feel is not on this album. So there's nothing like the stuff for the most part from Music of the Sun and A Girl Like Me. But Rihanna does step out. She does have a number of dance club singles. Some of them hit number one, and there's just some really interesting vibes that kind of showcase that Riri kind of has like particularly a more like she really carved out and kind of like honed like her songwriting skill set, because I think this album went like 6 times platinum. This is the album that got her first batch of number ones and kind of had her going for the throne as far as the queen of R&B. Or I feel like if the queen of R&B in the 2000s was Beyonce, I would almost damn near say that the queen of R&B in the 2010s was Rihanna, just because she dominated the early 2010s. If she just would have had like maybe one more album out in the 2010s, it probably would have been her. But for the most part, I would have to say it basically was her. But this was kind of like the early kind of rounds of that where she was showcasing like her complete dominance, and this is an album where she had 3 number ones off of it. So this is kind of the concept. Um so I'm going to talk about the singles now. There's 8 of them, so we're going to be here for a little bit. So the first single is Umbrella, and this kind of dropped in the spring of 2007. Jay-Z shows up at the very beginning. He's kind of on his like Kingdom Come type vibes, where it's kind of he kind of shows up on his Kingdom Come type vibes. It has some sophistication towards it, but it's really he's just like a snippet of the song because he's barely on it. But Rihanna kind of transforms this into a really hammy. I mean, I like this song Umbrella. It's definitely a great song, deserved to hit number one, but it's just so popular. It's just one of those songs that you hear kind of like We Are the Champions by Queen or something, that's just so large and just in such an emphatic song. It kind of lost some of the edge. I mean, maybe it had the edge back in the late 2000s, but it's just everywhere. It had the edge in like the late 2000s, but this song is just everywhere. Or the original thing about it is it is kind of a dance club song, and it is kind of a dance song, and that type of stuff definitely can still kind of be played at nightclubs in some sense, but it's very kind of like a lovey-dovey kind of song and that type of stuff. And you have to understand that it really kind of has like over the top, not in like a horrid way, but just kind of mildly over the top kind of hammy emotions, to the point where it is kind of just a number one that just is really kind of just, really kind of there. And that's just kind of the concept. But it is a great club song and deserved to hit number one. It's a nice dance club song and that type of stuff. But you just have to understand that is just such a large and massive song that pretty much I would say most people, people in their 50s, 60s, teenage years, 20s, this pretty much a lot of folks have probably heard this song in one way or the other, and it may not just be in the dance club. So it's just one of those massive songs that just was like a real high selling point. It's almost one of Rihanna's signature songs. Like I like Disturbia more, and Take a Bow is pretty good in terms of number ones, but this is just one that you just constantly continue to hear. So that's kind of the concept. So Shut Up and Drive is the second single, and this is one that surprised me. I haven't heard this song enough. I do like this song. Really kind of comes off as like a kind of in the car, just evening driving around type stuff, just kind of cruising around the night type values of Shut Up and Drive is kind of the evening type values of being in a car and that type stuff. Just a hazy kind of blue collar type song. I can see it as like a summer type song, but just kind of in a more, you've got some activities that are not just at noon when you're at work and 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you're at work, but just kind of more 6 o'clock, 7:30 p.m. Those type numbers that Kelly Clarkson would kind of pull off. This is one of the ones where I said Rihanna has some similarities to Kelly Clarkson and Avril Lavigne and that type of stuff. This really feels like it comes off as like a blue collar song where it's not like drug infested and real party infested, but it does kind of come off as just something recreational and kind of like a bop for like folks who have blue collar jobs but are still wanting to have a little bit of a good time. So it's pretty good to kind of get that song. I do like it. I really like the kind of um, yeah, this kind of evening blue collar type feel that the song has. Nice one. It's a nice taste for Rihanna. I would like for Rihanna to make more songs like this. I mean, this is a nice taste. It's surprising because like compared to Hate That I Love You, which is this complete blue collar, this summer haze, this one actually has a little bit more of a spice and pulse to it, but I do like it. So speaking of Hate That I Love You, Hate That I Love You is the third Hate That I Love You is the third single, and this is kind of one that just really feels like a complete hammed up in a relationship type feel. This one's probably the most romantic of all the singles, but the production is so, it's not down tempo, but it's just so kind of blue collar mid tempo. It just really feels like a makeshift song the whole way through. It's just makeshift relationship type stuff. This plain, this is definitely a song that really just kind of has that work setting, not quite as like jivey as Umbrella, not quite as like prompt as Shut Up and Drive, but this is just kind of one in like a relaxed kind of afternoon kind of picnic, work picnic type stuff, just hazy kind of summer, really just kind of light summer. I would say perfect to listen to in April, May, June, that type stuff. This really feels like it just this kind of light, warm weather, kind of blue collar type bop towards it that just really feels perfect for makeshift. And it's another nice song that Rihanna pulled out of her hat that just works pretty well. Now, I wouldn't go for this song. Me listening to this, there's not an abundance of reasons to listen to this song unless you have women in mind. But I still kind of feel like it is good, but I would probably go for some of the more jivey and electric type songs more so than this one. But it is there and for relationship features and just overall kind of more hammy purposes. But Don't Stop the Music is the fourth single. This is an excellent one. I really feel like Don't Stop the Music is an excellent single. This one kind of reminds me of the stuff that Lady Gaga would do, just kind of that electronic dance club type stuff, similar to Breathe Carolina and some of those folks. I'm trying to think of some other folks that kind of do electro pop, but yeah, I would just say something like Lady Gaga would do. This one really has a good taste of that. This Don't Stop the Music definitely has like an electronic type charm towards it. It's different from most of the other singles. It's a little bit more pulsating than Umbrella, not quite as hammy as Umbrella, and this really feels like the most comfortable and the most kind of pro definitely feels like the most comfortable and the most weekend oriented. Like I feel like if you're really like I would say Umbrella and Hate That I Love You are more kind of relationship bound, but this one's a little bit less centered and kind of more just about having drinks in your system and kind of jiving and dancing and that type of stuff. This brilliant kind of dance club song just works in an extreme sense of the word. Probably one of my favorite singles from the album, and just kind of works extremely well. I would definitely like more songs from Rihanna like this. It's just the perfect bop for kind of stepping out, and it charted pretty high too. I was surprised I didn't Like I would have liked to have heard more from this song and that type of stuff. It's just not a stuff. It's just not a song that my local radio stations play that much. But it is a real kind of in tune one that you may have forgotten about that Rihanna did. It's just a secret kind of Rihanna song, and it hit #3 on the Billboard 100. So that's basically #1 almost. Excellent song. All right, now the thing about it is Rehab is the fifth single, but it came out after the two singles off of, or the three singles off of Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded. So I'll talk about the fifth single. The fifth single is Take a Bow, and this was the first single from Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded. And this song, Take a Bow, is just kind of a down tempo relationship type feel, basically saying it's over, and just kind of one of those breakup type songs, kind of similar to Beyonce's Irreplaceable and that type stuff. Rihanna did a pretty good take on that sort of thing. You know, those typical kind of just distraught and just kind of in a foul mood type songs. I definitely feel like it's a nice one. I mean, at least for the context of it, it's not a song I'm going to recommend to you, but it is a decent song for kind of like after a bad night or something like that, or just going through problems, going through your ups and downs and that type of stuff. Just kind of has that feel towards it. But yeah, it's not a song I would recommend. I just kind of feel like it's a little bit too sluggish and that type of stuff. But so the next single, the sixth single, is If I Never See Your Face Again. And this is actually a Maroon 5 song, and it has Rihanna on there. Now, this is an early taste of what Maroon 5 would do just a few years later with like moves like Jagger and Payphone and like, what's that song that hit #1? One More Night, some of those type songs. So yeah, this Maroon 5, this was an early taste of what Maroon 5 would go on to dominate doing in like the 2010s. It's kind of interesting just hearing these Maroon 5 songs from back when they were kind of in the 2000s, because they did have some good bops, but they just didn't quite have the monster hooks to be able to show their dominance. Like Adam Levine really started to hone his craft in like the 2010s like Rihanna did also. But Rihanna suits this song well. Really comes off as like a nice kind of mild dance club type song. It's more of like, I would say it's more of a song where you could dance and have drinks and that type of stuff. But I would also have to say it reminds me of a song that kind of has like food there, something like that, where there's food and drinks and just kind of where you can dance and all that. So it's just kind of like a kind of good kind of dance club type song, but just kind of in a more restaurant sense and that type feel. But I did like the concept of it. Rihanna suited the song well, and it was a good duet with Adam Levine. They both worked that pretty well. And then Disturbia is the seventh single. Disturbia is an excellent one. This is similar to Don't Stop the Music, not quite as pulsating as Don't Stop the Music, but definitely in the same vein. And this song hit #1. Brilliant chorus, brilliant kind of background vocals. Rihanna just really made this song really catchy. So the chorus and like the bridge and the background vocals really make it melodic, and it's just a classic kind of gothic rock type song. Definitely feel like this is like a very charming one to kind of see that sort of thing. I feel like Shut Up and Drive and Disturbia are two great gothic rock type songs or gothic pop type songs that just work pretty damn well. And it just has an excellent type feel. It's one that still gets played today. This is definitely one that I prefer over Umbrella, but these are just excellent kind of club type songs. Umbrella, Don't Stop the Music, Shut Up and Drive, Disturbia. So these are just some excellent ones, and even If I Never See Your Face Again. So Rihanna really nailed this sort of stuff. So she has kind of that context as far as trying to get that done. And then the eighth single is Rehab. So this is kind of one that's kind of a powerful one. This is another, Rehab is another relationship type song that kind of has similar vibes to Take a Bow, but this one's kind of a little bit more broken and damaged, more so than Take a Bow is just more kind of punctual and just like you're done type vibes. But Rehab kind of showcases the damage more from a relationship such as that. This is kind of one of those sprawling Rihanna songs that you used to hear back in the late 2000s and early 2010s. I do like this one. I do recommend it. It's just a little bit more in kind of a serious context, not quite as frivolous and hop and bop as some of the other singles that she's done, but just kind of showcasing the fact it's kind of a foretaste of just the concept just by what she dealt with Chris Brown just a year after this song was released, or just like less than 6 months after this song was released as a single. So it just makes me question if Chris Brown had something to do with that song being made or something like that. But it is a nice, for women who kind of have like darker moments in their relationship, it's just kind of one of those songs that kind of have that context. But it does work kind of in like a good context and that sort of thing. It's not really, it's kind of a makeshift song. It kind of has like this more acoustic guitars in there, just kind of something you'd more hear after work, something like the evening time, and kind of more of like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock p.m. type feel. Not really evening type stepping out type feel like Shut Up and Drive, but just kind of more of like kind of like a work, the blue collar type feel of Hate That I Love You and Take a Bow, but just kind of in a more evening sense. That's kind of the concept there. But to kind of talk about, there were 8 songs out of 15 I recommend to you, so I'll go ahead and recommend those songs. So those 8 songs were Breaking Dishes, Shut Up and Drive, Don't Stop the Music, Disturbia, If I Never See Your Face Again, Rehab, Umbrella, and Hate That I Love You. So basically, besides the 7 singles out of 8 that I liked, the only single I didn't like was just Take a Bow. But apart from the 7 singles, the only really other song I enjoyed out of the 15 other song or out of the 15 songs on here is just Breaking Dishes. Now, Breaking Dishes is basically like another kind of up tempo and kind of more quirky and kind of just has like a real nice energy and tempo about it, club type song, very similar to Don't Stop the Music, Shut Up and Drive, and Disturbia. I really am glad that Rihanna did another song like this, but this is basically the only other song that I really feels like has any sort of excellent kind of thriving and throbbing energy that Rihanna needed. Like I definitely feel like she sold the part really well in songs like Don't Stop the Music, Breaking Dishes, and Disturbia. But the rest of the album, in terms of some of these songs, to talk about the complaints, there's a lot of cuts on here that just showcase Rihanna's lack of like album cut quality. And I just think I really felt like Push Up on Me was a pretty foul song for trying to do another club type bop and just kind of a more jivey. Like Breaking Dishes just worked out better. Just didn't have the energy of Don't Stop the Music, and this was not really kind of motivating and just had kind of bad production. I mean, some of it was good, the kind of thumpingness, but just didn't quite get enough of a good mixture to really do it. And then there just were some really bad ones on here. Timbaland didn't really give Rihanna some good stuff with Sell Me Candy and Let Me Get That. Question Existing was kind of trying to be another like powerful, sprawling club type number, but it just didn't quite turn out that well. And there just was a severe lack overall of like quality album cuts that just, I mean, the fact that she had 8 singles on Good Girl Gone Bad Reloaded is pretty great, but the concept about it kind of is just the fact that the concept about it kind of is that there is 8 good single, or there is 7 out of 8 good singles, but there's just not. I feel like the fact that Rihanna got 3 number 1s kind of makes up for the fact that the album quality is just kind of trite. I mean, really, it's not to say this is a bad album, but it just kind of undersells like the rest of being a classic album. I feel like you're probably paying more attention to this as a classic just because it showcased Rihanna's complete commercial dominance, which it did. I mean, all of these singles basically cracked like the top 20 of the Billboard 100. All 8 of them, I would say. So 8 singles that were top 20, which is really excellent. But looking past those 8 singles for the 7 other songs, apart from the 8 singles out of the 15 on here, there's just a lot of kind of hollow and kind of shoddy moments that are just kind of, or I don't want to say it feels like you got sold short, but it just kind of feels like you kind of got left hungry a little bit. And I think that that's just kind of the context. But I do think Breaking Dishes is a good album cut just to make up for like Take a Bow not being one. But that's kind of the concept. So me liking 8 songs out of 15, I'm gonna go ahead and give this album like a 6.6.5 out of 10. I feel like 8 singles is pretty excellent, but I like most of them, and I would say I like most of these singles, and I would say that it has a real kind of powerful kind of dichotomy of great makeshift songs and great club and R&B type songs and pop type songs as far as stepping out. But I would have liked some album cuts and that type of stuff. But for the most part, it just is, and I guess I'll just get into the complaints. So 6.5 out of 10. The social score I'm gonna give like a 9.5 out of 10. Really, I would give it a 10 if I like Take a Bow, but I feel like a 9.5 is pretty excellent just because in terms of songs that you can play around your friends and in relationships and that type of stuff, it just works. It works quite powerfully. Like I said, there's 8 top 20 singles on here, so that's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's just kind of the concept that, I mean, for the most part, it just kind of makes me wonder how many people are even going to complain about the fact that this album, the album cuts are really not that impressive. I mean, it's something to notice just because it's not just 3 or 4 songs, it's 7 that are kind of questionable in terms of like the ability to how much you're going to want to listen to them. So that's kind of the thing. It's about a little less than half the album that's kind of, eh, this is kind of the concept about it. So you just have to pay attention. I would almost say that there's 9 songs out of 15 because I think enough people probably would connect with Take a Bow, but I just didn't enjoy that song. So that's kind of the concept. So 6.5 for me, 9.5 social. In terms of the future, like Rihanna, there's more albums by Rihanna I'm going to review, and I would just have to say that's going to be interesting. But she's supposedly going to be working on some stuff. Hopefully that does come out soon. Hopefully it has like the sheer power in the singles like this album did, because this is definitely AAA stuff in terms of radio promotion and such.